Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom style.
Well, you thought we left y'all? Not yet. Not yet. Just one last time, because we love you, good people. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow us on our new home on Sports Zone Chicago on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago. You also find us on YouTube as well, as our new show will start this coming Friday, August the 13th, if I'm correct, Lakeena, because I don't have my calendar in front of me. Yes, I am correct. August the 13th will start this Friday on Sports Zone Chicago. That's from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So to watch our show, you can watch us on our Sports Zone Chicago pages. That's at Facebook and on YouTube. Just search for Sports Zone Chicago. You can always support weareregalradio.com and support War Media. That's where you go get our audio version still. So we haven't gone away from Cal just yet. So you still can hear the audio version of our program. Just go to War Media. That's WAR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WAR Media. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes, we are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Lakeena, we are the capital of Baseball City, USA right now as we recap the series that was from the north side at the friendly confines between the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox, for the third time since interleague play started in 1997, they swept away the Chicago Cubs. They did it in grand style fashion in front of a national audience last Sunday by the score of 9-3. The White Sox swept the Cubs Wrigley first in 1999, then again in 2012, and of course now in 2021. Lakeena, summing up this series, I'll get to my game experience in just a moment. But summing up this series, Lakeena, starting pitching that's what did it for the White Sox in these last two games of the series. Shout out to Carlos Rodon. He pitched a hell of a game on Saturday. Dylan Cease, after the first couple of innings, he kind of settled down. It helped that he had a big 7-0 lead. Friday's game, the bullpen gave it up, but the White Sox came right back, and it's hit anything to Brian Goodwin's 2-run home run. The White Sox won on almost every fashion of the game. As we said in our last episode, Lakeena, the White Sox were struggling offensively, especially in those games against Kansas City. I told people on this program they had to get right offensively. They did that last weekend at the friendly confines.
Yeah, I think the White Sox did what they were supposed to do. The Cubs are not very good right now. They got mostly AAA guys. So I didn't watch a single second of the series. Cubs
Shame on you.
Series. Well, I mean, look, I had my reasons, but look, there were more entertaining things going on in other sports, other than this this series. But look, I knew the Sox were going to sweep. I know, yes, Kimbrel gave up that lead in Friday's game, but I figured the Sox were going to pull it off, and they did. And the Sox, shut out the Cubs in the Saturday game, and look at Rodon had a nice outing there. 11 strikeouts, but again, I figured that the Sox were going to sweep, so that's why I didn't really bother watching it. But especially the nationally televised game, I saw folks were tweeting, Sox fans were gloating, and Cubs fans were sort of like had their heads down in shame. So I was just like, oh, okay, that told me all I needed to know. So I'm not. Wasn't like, okay, whatever, but I'm not, it really wasn't, it wasn't really at the top of my must-watch list, if you will. So I just saw some of the box score. Like I said, Rodon had a nice outing on Saturday with 11 strikeouts. Eloy had, 5 RBI. So again, in the Sunday game, so he said hi, mom, to the camera, which was so which of course is Eloy being Eloy. That's why we love him so much, because his personality. But again, look, the Sox did what they were supposed to against a not very good Cubs team. You hope they can do the same against a not very good Minnesota team, because after that is when it starts kind of like schedule starts to heat up for the White Sox this month. So again, we'll talk about it in a minute. But you know what? Look, a near perfect series. Look, they did what they were supposed to do, and good for them. And the national. I want to ask you this though, Sid, before you bring this up. But the national guys were saying, Matt Vasgersian and A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, Hall of Famer, soon to be Hall of Famer. Who deserves the credit for this sort of the success that the White Sox has had? Does Rick Hahn deserve a lot of the credit, or does Tony La Russa? So, I've heard some various both the radio stations here in Chicago, both the Score and ESPN Chicago, kind of go at it for what they brought up. But what's your take on it?
It first starts at the top of GM Rick Hahn, and he should get Executive of the Year, especially after the trade acquisitions he made at the trade deadline. It starts with him. We talked about it early in the year about the depth on this roster, especially after what happened to Eloy Jimenez going down in spring training. Of course, he had various other injuries throughout the year, and so we praised Rick Hahn on the depth that he brought to this roster, and the players actually stepped up and did what they had to do, the ones that filled in. Next is Tony La Russa. I'm not saying he's a perfect manager, but he's the perfect manager for this young squad, guiding them and teaching them on how to win, how to carry yourself as a professional. But because there's still a young core in that locker room, and so despite that foolish incident, air quotes, what happened with Yermin Mercedes with Minnesota early in the year, I think that Tony La Russa has handled the clubhouse pretty well. So you still need that type of manager for this type of ball club, and so they've been humble enough that he's letting those players have fun. I know the culture with the players were set before La Russa got here, but so far it's been pretty good. I think he's going to be your runaway winner for American League Manager of the Year. We didn't expect Minnesota to fall this far with their injuries, and we told you guys we expected Cleveland to have a second place finish just because, but that Tony La Russa deserves his credit as well. Rick Hahn first, and then Tony La Russa second, of course, followed by the players third, because those are the ones that had to go out there and do the job day in, day out.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that yes, La Russa kind of has to keep sort of like the ship from going, off the seas. But again, Rick Hahn was the one who built this team up. He's the one that made the big trade. So, I agree with you that he'll probably end up getting Executive of the Year in baseball, and deservedly so. Now, once we get to, down to like after the Minnesota series, they have, the 3-gamer against New York. Of course, the Thursday game being in Iowa for the Field of Dreams game that they were supposed to have last year. And I know there's some issues. Anthony Rizzo, unfortunately, will not be able to play in this series because he contracted COVID and such. Unfortunately, this has been an issue for the Yankees all season, has been guys, coming in and out, because of COVID issues. And but you avoid Garrett Cole, I should say. So you still have to deal. We'll see what they deal with the Yankees. You have 4 against Oakland. That'll be interesting one there. Also, you got 3. You have a massive road trip coming up next week. Starting next weekend, you got to go at Tampa, and you have 4 at Toronto. We'll get to Toronto and what they've been doing, what they did this weekend in a little bit. But after that, they got the Cubs to finish out the month. Also, have a 2-gamer at Pittsburgh. So against Pittsburgh, so there's definitely some room to kind of get pad in that league because they're trying to get that number 1 seed in the AL. But again, some tough games coming up. So if the Sox can avoid any serious injuries, like they've been able to kind of play well despite those injuries, you can make a case for them having the best record in the AL. But if they can get at least finish at 500, you gotta be feeling pretty good if you're a White Sox fan right now.
As we mentioned in our last couple of episodes, now we're into the month of August. These are the dog days of summer. And if you're the White Sox, you have to be prepared for this because you still have something to play for. Yes, you're going to win the division, but you still have something to play for, as you mentioned, perhaps the number 1 seed throughout the American League playoffs to grab home field advantage. You're getting the test right now. We saw they passed the test against the AAA Cubs team. And now this Minnesota series that started right before this Yankees series. Are you going to have a big letdown against the Twins on the road, or are you going to put your foot on the metal? That's the question that's facing the Sox team right now, because as you mentioned, they can run down that schedule. You're going to play playoff type teams to wrap up this month of August. So you got to be prepared with that mentality right now, because you could face a Tampa Bay in the first round. You could face a Yankees possibly. I've been telling this team all year, you're going to have to face Oakland. That's the series right there next week after you face the Yankees. How they're how the Sox are going to respond against a team that mirrors them a little bit. And the Oakland, they have the hitting, they definitely have the pitching and the bullpen to go with it. So if you're the White Sox, you got to match the intensity of those type of teams. You got to be ready to play playoff baseball. Yes, it was nice to see them hit the cover off the baseball against the Cubs against bad pitching, but we all know come playoff time is all about timely hitting and great pitching. You're not gonna outslug everybody 10-8, 9-2, 12-4. That just doesn't happen in playoff baseball. You got to play it close to the match. You have great pitching, great defense, and some timely hitting. And that's something that the White Sox have been doing all year long. I know some Sox fans want to complain that we don't hit a whole lot of home runs. That's okay. As long as you take advantage of the other team's mistakes to get timely hitting and you win the ball game, that's all that matters.
And I think that's all you need, right? But again, this is gonna be very interesting to see how it plays out for the White Sox because, like you said, Sid, I mean, like we've been saying, they still got a lot of tough games, a tough series coming up. So you kind of jog your position. I know some people were worried about Makata, but look, I think he's gonna be okay. I mean, look, you got the ebbs and flows of the season. You're finally playing a full season after what happened with COVID last year. You're gonna win a division, and look, I think it's all gonna come to a head. I think look, you got Jose Abreu leads is second in RBIs only to Vlad Jr. And you're right there near the top of the slugging percentages too. So Hendricks has 26 saves, leads the AL in that stat. So look, I think as long as you keep the consistency, I think they'll be just fine.
And going back to the subject of Johan Makata, of course, I was there on Saturday, and he started off the offense with a two-run double in the top of the first inning. They did kind of hold up until the end when the Sox had two solo shots by Cesar Hernandez and Jose Abreu, as you mentioned just a second ago. And then, of course, Johan Drew, he was 0 for 1 with 3 walks in the Sunday night game against the Cubs. So hopefully this starts to turn it around for Mr. Moncada. He has good defense, and we all know that he can turn it on offensively. Hopefully this is start of something big. As now, as far as that bullpen is concerned, I know Craig Kimball is human, and he gave it up on last Friday, but I still expect a lot from him. He's going to be okay. I know the other pitchers that bullpen, Jose Ruiz to be exact, and Ryan Tepera, who both of them pitched on Sunday, they looked good. And of course, having the big lead helps as well. But those guys, you'll have to depend on that as well. Michael Kopech, he did the job on Saturday, and so he's back on track. He didn't look good in his previous couple of outings, and so I like to see Kopech. I think he'll be okay. And so their bullpen is a whole lot better than it was a few weeks ago. So I'm not worried about the bullpen. It's just that you have to keep up that intensity, and hopefully the offense will start to catch a hot streak as we go to the middle of this month.
Well, I think the good part about it is the fact that there's so much depth on this roster. I mean, if one guy, has a bad stretch, another guy can pick up the slack. Then the problem is going to be if everybody has their issues at the same time. So that's like the one thing you don't want. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think I think it's sort of like you got to play it by ear. If you're the White Sox, you're going to win a division, so don't worry about that. You're still trying to position yourself to have like the best record in the American League, which you can still do. But again, you got a tough stretch coming up, so just take it one series at a time. Is really all you can do. And look, don't be upset if you lose a series. If you lose 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 to the A's or the Blue Jays, or lose 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. You just sometimes that stuff just happens in the long season. So I'm not going to go into a long winded stretch here, but I think the White Sox should be happy that they're in a good place right now.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. As we talk about Chicago baseball, now we're going to the national part of go nationally as we talk about the best and worst from this past weekend in Major League Baseball. I'll start off, Lakeena. One of the teams that the Chicago White Sox are chasing to perhaps grab home field advantage for the American League playoffs. The Houston Astros losing 3 or 4 at home to the Minnesota Twins.
And that's what I said. That look again, you can't take every series lightly. You can't just. I'm sure they were sort of showed up and they probably thought, oh, excuse me, oh, you know what? It's just the Twins. They're not going anywhere. But again, that's
Hmm.
why this is what I warn White Sox fans: do not take series lightly. So Houston, I think took Minnesota. Excuse me, I think Houston took Minnesota lightly, and look,
Hmm.
this is what happened. They lose 3 out of 4. So again, now they're only up 2 against Oakland. So again,
Hmm.
Oakland and Seattle, we'll talk about them in a second. They were able to gain a little bit of ground because of the bad series they had. And look, if you're an Astros fan, I think you're not freaking out yet. But you know what? But unless you're happy about it, I don't know. But but it's fine. I don't think Houston fans should panic just yet.
And also, too, staying with the American League, the Yankees failed to sweep the Seattle Mariners. They lost on Sunday 2-0. But as we mentioned, we talked about with Rizzo with the game coming up against the White Sox this coming Thursday. And of course, the weekend series will wrap up here in Chicago this coming weekend with the game Saturday and Sunday at Sox Park. The Yankees took 3 or 4 from Seattle. They still in the race. You mentioned it just a moment ago, the Boston Red Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays doing battle up north of the border. Toronto, as we told you guys, ever since now they starting to play their home games at used to be Sky Dome, now Rogers Center.
Mhm.
They've been catching fire. I don't know if you got a chance to catch that comeback win by the Blue Jays last Sunday, but it was a beautiful thing to watch.
I mean, those three, all 4 of those series, those game. Well, except for the Thursday one, in which Toronto just blew the doors off of the Red Sox 12-4. But
Yeah.
the other 3 were actually very entertaining. I think in a couple of instances where George Springer, how great is it for the Blue Jays to have him back to kind of add the extra
Yes.
power in that offense. Of course, they got that cool jacket. We talked about on Friday's episode. But yeah, I mean, look, it seems like the pitching started to get going with Barrios sort of leading the way now,
Hmm.
getting him from Minnesota, and they're getting, I think they're kind of going to a rhythm here now. Again, they may be too far, back to win the AL East, but they could definitely make a run for one of those wild card spots. And we've been raving about this Blue Jays team for it seems like for months now. I'm glad that
Hmm.
especially now they're back in Toronto. I think that's sort of and a little bit of pep in their step. The White Sox have to face them in a couple of weeks, so they better be ready for that series. They might be very similar styles, but again, if you're Toronto, I think you should be feeling pretty good where you're at right now.
Yeah, let's switch over to the National League. Of course, the Philadelphia Phillies, your new leaders in the clubhouse in the National League East. They lead the New York Mets by 2.5 games. They swept them over the weekend. The Atlanta Braves, which we'll talk about in a minute, they technically are in second place as of this recording. Lakeena, Zach Wheeler, who was supposed to be the White Sox original starting pitcher in free agency before last season, he decided to go with Philadelphia because his wife's from that area. He had a heck of a performance on Sunday. Only his third career shutout, his second of the season as a member of the Phillies on Roy Halladay Day. Of course, for those of you that have been living on the rock, he's passed away. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Lakina, Philadelphia, I told you I'm not a big fan of their bullpen, but they started to turn it around, especially offensively. Of course, I'm a big fan of Joe Girardi. He should be a manager of the White Sox, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. But Philadelphia has won, I believe, 8 in a row. They swept the Mets this weekend. The Mets, I think they can still get it together, but they got to turn it around and turn it around fast. And it didn't help that Javi Baez went out of
Yeah,
Sunday's game with a apparent, I believe, not ankle injury, but a hamstring pull, I believe.
hammy. Yeah, that heavy.
Hamstring. I know he came out on fire for the Mets, but if he's out for any length of time, that's going to be bad news for the Metropolitans. You already have Jacob DeGrom out, and that's not good either.
Yeah, I mean, the Philly. Well, I'll start with the Phillies first. They've won 8 in a row, and I thought of you and all other White Sox fans when Zach Wheeler had that great outing on Sunday. 11, I think it's only his second complete game, so career
Hmm.
complete game, I should say. So having 11 strikeouts and being able to, kind of tame that Mets offense, which has not been very good, especially now with Javi out. We don't know the extent of that hamstring injury, but they've been. Look, I don't look. who knows? I mean, if the Phillies can keep this up, they probably won't because, like you said, they're still having bullpen issues. Even though they the last couple of games they didn't really need them, but
Right.
look, I think Philadelphia. I think I'm not going to say that they're going to run away with the AL East. I think there's still a lot of games are still left to be played between all three of them. The Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets. So everyone's going to beat each other up. As it gets closer and closer to the end of the season. So this isn't over just yet, folks. It's definitely like a 3-team like slugfest for that division.
Yes, as I mentioned, the Atlanta Braves, they took care of business against the Washington Nationals over the weekend. I know they won their series finale 5-4 last Sunday. Lakeena, I know the Braves are over the 500 mark for the first time this season. That Ronald Acuna Jr. injury is going to be what keeps them out of the playoffs. So give them credit for fighting back, but I just not a believer in them. If they somehow find a way to win the division again, so be it. They had to overcome a whole lot more than they did a year ago, but I just don't see it, especially with this Acuna injury, who's out for the year with a knee injury. He injured himself a little bit over a month ago now, but I give them credit for hanging in there. I just don't see them hanging on at the end.
It's good. Yeah, I think that's who knows. I mean, I think that's probably what ultimately they keep them from winning the division is not having Acuna Jr. there. So I think look, you gotta they're putting up the fight. I think that's all you can ask for if you're a Braves fan. But in the meantime, I think that's what's gonna kill him in the end, not having having that extra bat. I know that Duvall's been playing well for the Braves. I know Swanson's been playing very well for the Braves. I think at this point, I think you just gotta just keep up the fight. Like they have to play against, like I said, they have to play against the other two teams. They have to play them as the Phillies again. So
Hmm.
who knows? I mean, can they keep it up? I don't think they will. I just don't think they have the bats to do it. But again, look, the good on them for doing what they're supposed to, being a national team that's basically wiping the slate clean and starting over.
Hmm. Let's head over to the National League Western Division. Of course, you have the Giants, San Francisco. That is San Francisco's version of the Giants. You have the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you have the San Diego Padres. I'll start with the San Francisco Giants. I think, as we said over the last few weeks, San Francisco, unless they have the one of the worst collapses of all time, they're going to be in the playoffs. I don't want to say it just yet, Lakina, but I'm starting to get that feeling that they're going to win the NL West. And if that's the case, if you're the Dodgers, you definitely do not want to play the Padres in the one-game playoff to determine the NL wild card right now, because that's not going to look good for you. But I'll start with the San Francisco Giants first. They swept the Milwaukee Brewers 90 minutes north of us here in Chicago over the weekend. Chris Bryant is still continuing to look good. Johnny Cueto, he leads that pitching staff of the San Francisco Giants. Lamont Wade Jr., one of the best young hitters in the game at the leadoff spot. He's the energizer bunny that gets them going for the San Francisco Giants. We joked about this team, Lakina, over the last couple of years. They're AARP team. Not so much this year. They're getting it done with a bunch of no names outside of Chris Bryant.
Well, the thing is, that can it keep it up? I mean, you're going to be dealing with guys who don't have a lot of experience, in that. I mean, look, no one thought that the Giants would be playing this good right now.
Mhm.
Everyone thought this was going to be there would be a rebuild mode, but Gabe Kaplan is, was coming in and, just I don't know what happened, but I guess they've lit a fire under the team, and like you said, I mean, they're getting good contributions from a couple of guys that and others no name guys that again. Yeah, I think it's going to be between them and the Dodgers because the Padres are having their own injury issues with, you don't know what they
Mhm.
said is a Tatis injury. So there's some worry that he may have to have season ending surgery. So, and the Dodgers are having some of their issues too. They don't know you just don't know what the Trevor Bauer situation is going to be. That's still, lingering out there. So this sort of, the Giants are kind of benefiting from all of that. So again, still got a long way to
Mhm.
go. I mean, they've got a tough schedule, coming up, but I mean, I'm not gonna say that they're gonna win a division just yet. I'm not there yet. I think there's still like a lot of baseball left to be played, and they still have a pretty tough schedule. I know after the Diamondbacks and the Rockies, they have three against the Mets next week. Then they got three, and it's sort of like the base interleague series, if you will, against
Mhm.
Oakland next weekend. Then they have the Mets against or sandwich in between that series. So I'm not just gonna give the division just yet, but But you know what? I think right now I'm not like I think it's definitely going to be between the Giants and the Dodgers for the NL West.
Since you're not going to give the Giants the division, will you at least give manager Dave Kapler the National League Manager of the Year?
Oh, I think so. Oh, yeah, I think he definitely has earned it. I think no one, like
Okay.
I said, nobody thought that this team would be contending. Everyone thought that this would be like, okay, you'll trade some of their veteran guys. You'll trade Cueto. You'll trade
Mhm.
maybe Posey. No one thought that this team would be. No one thought that
Brandon
this
Crawford still hanging around
Crawford's
too.
still there. Yeah, he's still there. I think he just turned 30, Brandon Crawford. So, and he got, like you said, got a couple of got some no name guys. I mean, no one thought that they were gonna. Also Wilson Flores too. There's a familiar name as well. So no one thought
Yeah,
that.
he was on that 2015 team with the Mets that
Yeah.
lost to
So
KC in the World
yeah.
Series.
So nobody thought that this team was gonna be this good. No one thought that. But like I said, I mean, they're playing with house money right now. So again, I'll give Kepler the his due for manager of the year in the NL, but right now I'm still not there yet in the win a division. I know they still gotta play the Dodgers a few times too before the season's over with. So I'm not like they'll get the playoffs regardless. Quiet you. They'll get the playoffs regardless, but I don't have them winning the division just yet.
Wrapping up the division talk in the West, the Dodgers they take care of the Angels in the LA Freeway Series, taking 2 out of 3. Congrats to Albert Pujols, who's a part-time player now for the Dodgers. He hit a home run last Sunday against his former team, career home run number 676. He's
Mhm.
a future first ballot Hall of Famer. The Dodgers, as you mentioned, Trevor Bauer, you just had to assume that he's not going to pitch for you again this year. Max Scherzer, they picked up at the trade deadline. We saw what he did last week in his first start against uh, in his first start against the Houston
Houston,
Astros.
Houston,
He
Houston,
had
Houston, Houston, Houston.
yeah Houston Astros, and he had 11 strikeouts in his debut. So he's going to have to be the barrier as far as their pitching staff. You still have Walker Buehler, who's I believe the best pitcher on that staff. So you had to be carried by those two guys as far as that starting rotation is concerned. I know Mookie Betts is still out with his various injuries. Hopefully you had to get him back in the lineup soon. Now for the Padres, they took care of business against a lowly Arizona club this past weekend. But as you mentioned, Lakeena, if Fernando Tatis Jr. has to have season-ending surgery on that shoulder, which he injured the last couple of times during the season, that's really going to be problematic for San Diego because you definitely don't want to have to face that mountain of not having the best player on your team against the Dodgers in the potential wild card playoff. No matter where the game is, whether it's in San Diego or Los Angeles.
Well, look, like as I said before, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see this. Hopefully, if you're a Padres fan, you're hoping that that's not the case. That he has to have that surgery, but it's not looking good right now. And look, you did what you're supposed to. Like you said, they beat the Diamondbacks. Did what they had to do. Did what they were supposed to do. You're still 7.5 back. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're still gonna probably have to play maybe somebody, whether it's the Dodgers or the Giants or something. You're gonna have to play somebody for that wild card spot. So, I mean, there's really nothing you can do. Just hope that shoulder could for hold up for Tatis Jr. and just hope that he can finish up the season and
Yeah.
power through.
Yeah, here's the schedule for baseball for this week coming up. You have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They travel to Toronto to take on the Blue Jays. You have the Detroit Tigers facing the Baltimore Orioles in Baltimore at Camden Yards. You have the Los Angeles Dodgers facing the Philadelphia Phillies in a big series for both teams. You have the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates in the NL Central battle. The Oakland Athletics will travel to Cleveland to take on the Indians. Sox fans should watch that series closely for reasons where we won't get into here. Tampa Bay will travel to Boston to take on the Red Sox. Of course, these two teams have battled each other back and forth in the AL East race all year. The Washington Nationals will travel to New York to take on the travel to New York to take on the Metropolitans, aka the New York Mets. Cincinnati will travel to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Both those teams are involved heavily in the NL wildcard race. The Milwaukee Brewers will travel here to Chicago to take on the lowly Cubs. Of course, you have the Sox and the Twins. Colorado at Houston, and the New York Yankees at Kansas City to take on the Royals. The Diamondbacks at San Francisco. and the Marlins at the Padres, and then the Texas Rangers at Seattle. So that's the schedule for baseball for this coming week. You're listening to Second City Sports as we wrap up segment number one along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Lakeena, let's tackle this issue quickly as we talk about the Chicago Bulls. Of course, the trade for Lonzo Ball, the point guard out of New Orleans, is no more. He's officially now a member of the Chicago Bulls. Thomas Satoransky in a second round pick, and I forgot who the other player was. They're now officially gone to the New Orleans Pelicans.
Thad Young.
That is young. Thank you. So both those guys, including this future second round pick, they're now part of the New Orleans Pelicans franchise. Lakeena, there's been reports of possible tampering issues involving the Chicago Bulls. And I think, as you said over Twitter over the weekend, in various outlets, everybody tampers. Okay, they're doing it in some form or fashion. I don't think that anything will come of this. And if you're the NBA, I'll go into my conspiracy mode. I know there's some you NBA fans out there that believe in conspiracy theories. Okay, if you're the NBA, if the Bulls actually did something really outrageous, do you really think they're going to punish them? And you need the Bulls haven't been this relevant since the Derrick Rose days, and that's been 5-6 years ago. Okay. Do you really want to mess up that money train? Because the Bulls have been this relevant in a long time. And this is the most pre-hype that we ever experienced going into a season in a long time. Do you really want to mess up that money train and mess up that momentum? Do you? If you Commissioner Adam Silver, do you really want to mess this up? That'll be bad for business. If you're going to punish the Bulls, punish every other team in your league that does this. You don't want to do this unless it's something that's obvious and that really sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't see anything coming of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the Bulls, they can frame this and say, look, we already had the framework of this training. We know that. Look, Lonzo Ball has wanted to come to Chicago. He said it. He's one like three or four teams. They say he wanted to play. He wanted to play with Zach LaVine. He wants to play for the Bulls, and they already had the framework of the trade going. So I read. I don't know about you, but I read. Casey Johnson, who does a great job over at NBC Sports Chicago, writing for the Bulls. Yes, I read that article saying that Larry Marketing was the piece and blah blah blah. Whatever. But it's gonna make you can't pick and choose who to investigate when it comes to tampering, because everybody tampers in some, like Sid said, everyone tampers in some form or fashion, whether it's players congregating over dinner or whatever, or a GM, talks to another player or whatever. But just get rid of the rule entirely, because, you want to, I get why they put the rule in, because, some of the small market teams are, kind of stomping their foot and, throwing tantrums saying that, it's all the advantage goes to like all the big cities and the super teams. Well, look, that's still happening. So like, it's not like you're not, it looks bad for, like I said, it's bad for business now. They're not the only ones that are under hot water, as I'm doing the air quotes here, that apparently the Miami trade from Kyle, with Kyle Lowry from Toronto, that's still under question too. So the similar circumstances. Look, I think it makes you look bad for the NBA. Either get rid of the rule, which I think that's what they'll do. I think they will get rid of the rule eventually, because I think there's going to be too much backlash. It's good. I know the Malcolm Brogdon, trade that didn't go through with the Bucks, blah, blah, blah. It took a month, but that was back when, during the pandemic, and they probably didn't have a lot of resources. It's going to take maybe a week or two, I think, at most, because they don't want, look, I mean, Adam Silver is is more of an image cautious guy. He's not going to want to, get rid of the money train, the gravy chase. So, if anything, they'll probably give maybe a $500,000 fine, if that. So, and they'll be over and done with by 2 weeks. I gave it 2 weeks max.
Mm-hmm. And didn't the league discuss this issue a couple years ago as well? Almost something else just as big as this happened. So, like you mentioned before, this issue isn't new. If you guys really remember your history, the league owned this team at the time. It was the New Orleans Hornets. But remember, those proposed trade for Lamar Odom for Chris Paul before that 2012 lockout season. Of course, the late Commissioner David Stern asked that because of basketball related issues. So the league has had these types of issues when it comes to tampering before. So hopefully this is the end of it. And like you said, they need to change some of the rules, make it clear to what teams can and cannot do. So you won't have issues like this again. But the league has had issues like this before.
but they can't pick and choose. Like I know Lakers fans are still pissed because I know CP3 to some extent too that he couldn't go to the Lakers and play with Kobe and them. But but you know what, you gotta pick a lane here. Either get rid of the rule or be more clear on what can and can't be done, and perhaps maybe tell guys like Sharna and Andrew Wojnarowski, which I think that's how all this started. Maybe perhaps tell them, not to break news, wait maybe an hour after something happens, or maybe, wait maybe a couple of days to break the news. I know the sort of race to be first, but maybe that needs to change too.
Yeah, we know, especially Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj bombs. He loves to drop those. So it'll be interesting to see how the league finish up these investigations. If anything big comes out of it, I don't expect anything really big to come out of it. If it does, like you said, Lakeena, it'll probably be a monetary fine, and then go about your business.
And just be clear on what can and can't be done, like you said, Sid. Just be clear about it, because everyone does it. And if not, just get rid of the rule. Yeah, and if not, just get rid of the rule entirely, because again, it is just like, I think you're gonna have anarchy on your hands, and if you're the NBA, you don't want that, especially since you had a pretty good year ratings wise, especially monetary wise. So you don't want to stop that, like you said, you don't want to stop that gravy train.
All right, segment number 1 is in the books. Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continues as we review Hall of Fame weekend from the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. A college football legend passed away, and we'll review the gold medal games for Team USA, both the women's and the men's. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports. We'll see and hear you on the other side. Welcome back to the second half of Second City Sports Zoom style. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Let's kick off the second half of Second City Sports, Lakeena, by reviewing the speeches from this past weekend's Pro Football Hall of Fame classes of 2020 and 2021. Of course, we'd like to say our congratulations once again to 85 Chicago Bear offensive lineman Jimbo Covert.
Yay.
He was part of that Hall of Fame ceremony over the weekend. Of course, it was highlighted by Peyton Manning's speech. Drew Pearson, who finally got in. He was the original number 88 from the Dallas Cowboys before Michael Irvin. He got in. Tom Flores got his due. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame along with former college and pro football head coach Jimmy Johnson. Finally got his due. He got in. He was very emotional over the weekend. So, Lakeena, I only saw the Peyton Manning speech. We'll review that in just a moment. And I saw part of Drew Pearson's speech and a little bit of Jimbo Covert's speech. But what was the main highlight for you over the weekend as far as the Hall of Fame speeches are concerned?
Just a pure joy of some of the guys that you thought that had to wait. You saw the pure joy of you just mentioned Drew Pearson's speech. Just a pure, like, I think he kept, I know some people were kind of, I don't want to say nagging on, but he kept saying, Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think he kind of wanted to keep saying it because he just couldn't believe that he finally got in. He had to wait.
Yeah.
Should have been in a couple of years ago, but again, that's a whole nother story. But the fact that just a pure joy, like, in his face, his speech was was great. Listen to some of the speeches of some of the I'll go with the last year's class first. Isaac Bruce, was beautifully, a great speech. Also, if you didn't hear Ezra and James's speech, if you're not going to hear any of the other speech that you just mentioned, but Ezra and James's speech, basically saying that all the misconceptions that was thrust upon him, where he came from just outside of Miami, not a very good part of that area, and because he had his dreads and everything, and the fact that he said from let me look this up right quick, but I want to make sure I get the quote right from so he sort of, I paraphrase what he said, from not the best part of Miami, from that part to now the gold, from his gold teeth to now the gold jacket, which was a very you have to look at they're on YouTube, so I'm sure they're on YouTube, I'm sure, the Pro Football Hall of Fame site. So if you miss the speeches, you should definitely check those out. you saw Troy Polamalu with his speech and the impact there, and also too, I mean, just the Jimmy Johnson's speech were very emotional. Him, losing, not being, close to his sons, but now they are very close. You saw his two sons out there, and Jimbo Cover's speech was really cool. The fact that he even shared a story about, how he would Walter Payton would jump into his arms before game day and say, good morning, sunshine.
Yeah.
He had to the way he said it, how he said it better than I did, but good morning, sunshine. Get ready to kick some ass. So like, was totally like, like you could definitely see it. Definitely comments to what Walter Payton said.
Yeah, shout out to Matt real quick. Shout out to Matt Suey, who was the fullback on that team. He was Walter Payton's best friend. He also presented Jimbo Cobra with the speech. So shout out to Matt Suey as well.
And just also too, you saw Dan Marino's face, because you remember we mentioned this in the Friday's podcast. People forget that it was Jimbo Cover, two-time All-American at Pitt. He protected Dan Marino, and if you go back to Marino's speech a few years ago, one of the first football guys he mentioned, he thanked was Jimbo. So you can tell how much that meant to him. The fact that he probably said himself he wouldn't have a Hall of Fame career if it wasn't for Jimbo in college over at Pitt. Harold Carmichael, Cliff Harris. I mean, I like the kind of the older guys because of the fact that they had to wait so long. Steve Atwater, the great safety from those Broncos teams. Also Commissioner Paul Tagliabue. I mean, however you guys feel about him, I think he definitely sort of raised his stakes in the game when it came to television and the social aspect of it. He definitely played a role in that. Steve Hutchinson. I was surprised he didn't get in already. The guard from the Seahawks and the Vikings. Just a great showing there. Donnie Shell, who was part of those great Pittsburgh teams in the 70s, tail end of the 70s and in the 80s. Definitely another guy that should have gotten in already. We mentioned Isaac Bruce, of course, Jimbo, and also Bill Coward. If you heard his speech was very emotional, and the fact that Mario Schottenheimer took a chance on him. He was only in his early 30s, and the Rudy family took a chance on him to coach Pittsburgh. When he didn't have any coaching experience, and the fact came a long way. Now he's a great analyst for CBS. Has been doing it for years now. So just a sweet moment. So we'll go to this year's class. But what do you think? I know you didn't watch a lot of it, but what do you think about my sayings about last year's class?
Oh, it's tremendous, and like you said, Jimbo Cova's speech was very entertaining and amusing at the same time. But speeches, especially for those ceremonies, are very inspirational. Something for you to think about, to laugh at. It's sports is a constant mirror of life. You're gonna have your good, you have your bad, ups and downs. So it's just a beautiful circle that we live through. And so, just congratulations to those guys once again.
All very deserving, and some of those guys probably should have gotten in already. But again, we've already kind of went on a tangent about that.
They're in. That's all that counts now.
That's all that counts. Yeah, I'd say it doesn't matter how they get there, as long as they get there, how long they had to wait. But we talked about this year's class. We got Drew Pearson in his speech. I mean, like I said,
They should let him go for a half hour. How many years
right?
Let him wait.
Yeah, I know, right? Just a pure joy in his face, and he thanked Roger Staubach, who fellow Hall of Famer who presented him, and just a pure emotion, just a joy in his face. The fact that he had to wait as long as he did, it was a crime that he had to wait as long as he did. But the original 88 for Dallas and the original Hail Mary for Dallas, if that gets an NFC playoff game against Minnesota, look that up on it. I think it was in 1970. What year was that, Sid? I want to
say 77, 78.
77. I think that's what it was, because it was in the playoff game. But yeah, finally getting his due. Tom Flores. I mean, I love his speech when he started. So, look, I'm 84 years old. I want to go first. I want to go to this is past his bedtime. That was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, people forget. I know Tony Dungy gets a lot of, well-deserved credit for being the first African American to win a Super Bowl, but the first coach of color to do it was Tom Flores. He shared his background growing up in Central California. Didn't think he would go to college, but he did. Didn't think he'd be coaching in the NFL and playing in the NFL, but he did. Was the first Mexican born, not Mexican born, but Mexican descent to play quarterback, and also to lead a team to the Super Bowl. I think the first coach, I think the first man to do. No, I think he was the second guy after Ditka. No, I think Ditka was the second guy. I don't know. I got that mixed up. But to win a Super Bowl as a player, assistant coach, and a coach, of course, he won 2 with the Raiders. Finally getting his due, because he probably should have gotten in already. But what do you think?
Yeah, as we mentioned in our last episode, Tom Flores was the first coach of color to win the Super Bowl. Of course, he was followed by Art Shell in 1989. And so shout out to Art Shell. I believe he's in the Hall of Fame as a player, correct?
Yes, he is. He is.
Yeah, so brain's still working, folks. I'm not Googling it either. So,
Nicely done.
And that's a credit to the late Al Davis. He gave chances to folks of color and the African American community in particular. Of course, with bringing up Barshell, that brings up the list of black head coaches that was soon to follow in the 90s, with the late Dennis Green getting hired in Minnesota. Of course, he coached Arizona during the mid 2000s. But Al Davis started the trend, who's a Hall of Fame in his right, even though he's passed on. He started a trend of having minority coaches, not just head coaches, but coaches in higher positions and in the front office as well.
Also, females too. Don't forget, Amy Trask, who's a great. If you guys don't follow her on Twitter, you should. She is probably one of the smartest football minds that male or female that you have, and hopefully she gets her doing the Hall of Fame, because she definitely deserves that honor too. Of course, third up, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't go last, but I guess he wanted to go third. Was Peyton Manning, 5-time MVP, first man to win Super Bowls with 2 different to be a starting quarterback for winning Super Bowls for 2 different teams. Just his speech, it was heartfelt. It was funny. He made fun of the time limit, the 6-minute time limit. Like, thanks a lot, Ray Lewis. It was just so hilarious. Of course, he got emotional talking about his dad, and that sort of condensed of what he said when he was like, I think he was maybe 4 or 5 at the time. When a guy asked him, this was when Archie was playing for the Saints. Well, they asked Peyton who was his favorite football player. He said his dad, and that was sort of like, you felt that energy, you felt that emotion. But he also, if you listen to his speech, especially those last couple of minutes, he sort of acted like, dare I say, was angling for the NFL commissioner's job. Sid, he mentioned. He mentioned. Just want to finish this. He mentioned the concussion, the safety concerns, and the social justice concerns and stuff. So he sounded like he was angling for the job. Now, again, Roger Goodell's got that unlocked for the next 3 years. But what do you think? So I know you caught a little bit of his speech.
Yeah, and his speech was a great speech. We talked about this before we started recording. Peyton Manning, no, he's going to do Monday Night Football on the alternate broadcast this year, along with his brother Eli. Shout out to Tom Brady, who's still active, of course, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was sitting in the section where Peyton Manning's family was.
Yes.
But I said the way he presented himself, he could run for public office right now if he chose to. But I know he said at the end of his speech that he's going to dedicate his life to preserve the future of the game of football. You mentioned, you brought up the safety concerns and the social justice concerns. I don't know how much of that part he's going to go into, but if he becomes a general manager or a president of football operations, or like you said, heaven forbid, a commissioner, he could do it. He has the image, he has the presentation, he has the knowledge to do it. So I won't be shocked if any of those things happen within the next 3 to 5 years.
Well,
because football is really in his blood, and thanks to his dad Archie for that.
Yeah, and also too, I'm sure. Look, he's going to do some TV work. He's been doing TV work various forms. People have been wanting him to do analyst stuff. I think that's not really what he wants to do. But I think he is probably going to be the commissioner at some point. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe. Some of those episodes I caught on YouTube of Peyton's Place. Yeah, those are entertaining.
Those are. People forget how entertaining, how easy going and fun loving. If you saw his on SNL, we know he has a great sense of humor. Yeah. So come on. All right. Free safety John Lynch. I'm surprised he didn't go in already. He definitely deserves of this honor, of course. Went to 5 Pro Bowls, of course, won the Super Bowl with Tampa. The first one that Tampa won. And he actually, he was very emotional, of course. He actually also made a case for his good friend and teammate Rondé Barber, who's been a finalist a couple of times the last few years, and hopefully he joins him, and of course Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks in the Hall of Fame too. Though that part of that Tampa team that was a really good Tampa team back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It makes you kind of missed those creamsicle uniforms though when he first got there, but yeah. So just a great speech by him, and and look, again, he was more than due for it. What do you think about his? I know you didn't see his speech, but what do you think, Sid?
Yeah, like you said, John Lynch should have been in a long time ago. Like you said, those Tampa Bay teams, especially defensively, were the best defensive units in NFL history during that era. And Rondé Barber's, he should be in. I'm shocked that Fox let him go as far as his broadcasting
Yeah,
is
he was
concerned a
really
couple of
good.
years ago. Yeah, hopefully he lands on his feet as far if he wants to continue broadcasting. But uh, Rondé Barber should be in the Hall of Fame. He was one of those guys in the secondary that made that team go along with John Lynch. So John Lynch made a great case for him, and why not? Like you say, he's been on the doorstep the last few years. So what's the holdup?
And also too, Lynch mentioned that at Stanford he actually was playing linebacker, and it was the late Denny Green, also too, as well as the late Bill Walsh, who came back to Stanford. They moved him, I should say, Walsh did, to the free safety position, and the rest was history. So very smart move by
Yeah,
Coach Walsh.
yeah, and that's why John Lynch was one of the best hard-hitting safeties of all time. I think number one is still Ronnie Lott.
Yeah.
And the way and with his missing finger, if you don't know that story, go look it up on YouTube on his football
Yeah.
life
Oh
episode. I'll
gosh.
leave it at that.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
He
It
gets
was,
more in detail into that.
yeah. It's a good episode too. So also
Yeah.
wide receiver Calvin Johnson, who retired from Detroit, and we found out not very good terms, but was all pro 3 times, I believe, and also too was a Pro Bowler 5 times. Definitely made a great case for the short career that he had. I think he's still I think leads the Lions, the franchise, in receiving yards. He also he got really more into the fact that he had back issues in his second year in the league, and also too the fact that he has medicinal stuff that's helped him, natural stuff, CBO and those type of things, he marketing those things, working with doctors and trainers. So it was also about the mindset for him. So what you think about Calvin Johnson?
Yeah, like you say, it's a great career, and it should have been longer. And unfortunately, those Detroit Lions, just like us here in Chicago, didn't have feel very many winning teams. But like you mentioned, what he's doing now is tremendous. Hopefully, it helps the next generation of athletes to really take care of themselves. I know they know the risk of playing football, but you just have to be smarter and really take care of yourself. Know what you're getting into before you choose this profession.
Absolutely. Alan Faneca, left tackle, 5-time All Pro, should have gotten in. I think was very. If you saw that block in Super Bowl 40 with the Steelers played the Seahawks, that led Willie Parker for that 75-yard touchdown that kind of like broke the game
Yeah.
open. He also opened up about his. I forgot because I remember he mentioned this. He was at LSU. His battle with epilepsy. He was diagnosed at the age of 15. The fact that he was still able to have such a great Hall of Fame career, and just as remarkable, and should have gotten into, I think. And he also made a case for his good buddy Hines Ward. We'll get to him in a minute, but what do you think about Faneca's resume and speech?
Yeah, he should have been in a long time ago. Humble beginnings, just like as I said before in our last segment, it's a circle of life. You go through ups and downs and obstacles. So what are you going to do to overcome it? And that's what athletes represent, not just in the game of football, but in the game of life. And he's just one of many examples. That's why they're sitting up there in that special shrine today.
Also, last but not least, Mr. Charles Woodson, very emotional. He dedicated to his family, particularly his mom, Georgia. Also, too, he talked about his career. He had all his teammates, from his high school days and Fremont, just not too far from Kent, about an hour and a half outside of Campton. Also, too, his resume at Michigan, which he won the Heisman Trophy, and of course, with the Raiders and the Packers, where he won a Super Bowl with the Packers. And just it was more about emotion for Woodson's speech. Just a very deserving of a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, the only thing I had a problem with, and this is just me being a petty Bears fan, of course, if you guys remember during that 2010 NFC Championship game, which the Packers won by 7, Jay Cutler got hurt for the Bears. Of course, there was a story then President Obama, even though he's not from Chicago, he made his home here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He said that the Bears would have went to the Super Bowl. He would come visit them. Of course, if you watched Charles Woodson's A
Yes.
Football Life and you saw the clip of the NFL films following that game against the Bears, he said the president wanted to go see the Bears if they made it to the Super Bowl. Now we're going to go see him after we win it. I was like, you son of a. I'll leave it at that.
He actually
I'll leave
showed
it at that.
They actually showed that clip right before there is intro and to
I
his
probably would have thrown
ceremony.
my remote at him. I know I'm damn sure I would have thrown my remote. It was good I didn't see that part.
Okay.
But you know, I remember him in college at the University of Michigan. He took a Heisman Trophy away from Peyton Manning. I know thanks to the voters, but he was a heck of a college player, one of the best defensive players during that time. And of course, he made his mark with Oakland. And of course, winning the Super Bowl with the Packers. But congratulations to him. I'm looking for him to see him full time now with Fox coming up this fall.
Definitely will probably be the face of that network too. Now that another Hall of Famer, Tony Gonzalez, has I don't want to say retired, but also stepped away from the broadcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be between him and Strahan now.
Right, absolutely. That should be interesting too. Those two going at it. Also, you want to get a shout out to Bill Nunn, the late great Bill Nunn, who is a visionary. Who even Chris Morris has said, if you watch the ESPN broadcast of the ceremony, that he basically, Nunn basically shamed the Steelers into start recruiting more, African American players from the HBCU. So. And of course, the rest is history. That a lot of those teams and those Steelers teams and Steelers, about a third of them were from historically black colleges.
Yeah, including Hall of Fame Mel Blount, who helped change the game in terms of defensive pass interference. He was, I think he came from Grambling.
Yes, he did. You're right.
Yeah, so he came from Grambling. Of course, we can name a whole list of players, especially during that time, that came from HBCUs with Jerry Rice, Jackie Slater, Walter Payton, of course, here in Chicago. So, yeah, there's a historic connection between the HBCUs and the NFL. Hopefully, it could be restored again.
Aeneas Williams too, another went to HBCU. So so a lot of great players from that are in the Hall of Fame now came from HBCUs. Okay, and real quick for next year's Hall of Fame, want to see who's up first time?
Yes.
DeMarcus Ware, Steve Smith Sr., Andre Johnson, Robert Mathis, Anquan Bolden, Devin Hester, and Vince Wilfork. Who do you think, if any of those guys I mentioned, are first ballot for next year's Hall of Fame?
Devin Hester for sure, because I think he still has the record of total kick returns all time. And plus, he's still the only man to return an opening kickoff for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So I think he gets in. He'll get in, but he should get in first ballot. Maybe Steve Smith Sr., maybe him. It depends on who else is up, who hasn't been elected, been passed over the last few years. But I'm saying Devin Hester for sure, maybe Steve Smith Sr. for the first timers.
The problem with Steve Smith Sr. is that there's just a log jam of wide receivers that haven't gotten any, and also
that's why I say maybe.
You're also with Andre Johnson, also to Anquan Bolden. Now Devin Hester is interesting because you know how the Hall of Fame feels about special teams guys. Look at Ray Guy; he had to wait like 30 years before he was able to get in. So that's going to be interesting.
Hester shouldn't wait that long.
Yeah,
even doesn't get in this year, he shouldn't wait that long.
Well, you can only hope. Also, too, I think remember also too Zach Thomas, who should be in, who Jimmy Johnson was lobbying for to get in for next year. He better get in next year. Hall of Fame committee, come on now. It'll be interesting. Like I said, I think you can probably make a case for some of these guys to be, be first ballot, but I don't know. It's just I don't know. I mean, like I said, I felt the same way about this past year's class. I knew Manning and Woodson would get in, and the rest was just a shrug. Me, this year's is just shrug. Like I don't know. I don't know who's gonna get in first ballot, but we'll see. We'll see. We don't have to worry about that till later on in the football season. But should be interesting to see who gets in.
Yeah, it should be fun. You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown Lakeena. Let's stay with football. And we had to pay our respects to the late, great college football head coach, Mr. Bobby Bowden, who passed away this past Sunday at the age of 91 due to pancreatic cancer. He's one of the top winning coaches in college football history. He has 2 national championships at Florida State, 1993 and 1999, 12 ACC titles from 1992 to 2000, 2002, 2003, and 2005. And 2 ACC Atlantic Division titles, 2005 and 2008. He is the recipient of the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Award in 1980, the Walter Camp Coach of the Year Award in 91, and the Amos Alonso Stagg Award in 2011. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2006. Lakeena, I was thinking about this before we started recording today. He's one of the top winningest coaches of all time. But look at the players that have come through that program. Some of them made it in the NFL. Some of them didn't. But I know Deion Sanders was the head coach now at Jackson State, I believe. Of course, he was one of the famous players that played under him. He had a nice tribute tweet over the weekend, paying tribute to Bobby Bowden. Remember Peter Warwick, Charlie Ward, who at that time it wasn't too many black quarterbacks in the NFL, and I believe he won the Heisman during that year, but he decided to play basketball, and countless other players that came through Florida State. Derek Brooks, as you mentioned with Tampa Bay, he's now in the Hall of Fame, and there's countless others too. But peace and love to the Bowden family for during this challenging time. But he's one of the Bobby Bowden is one of the premier faces in college football, and his legacy will go on forever.
And reading the tweets from and Instagram posts from guys like not just the guys you mentioned, but also to guys like Danny Cannell, guys like Warwick Dunn, and many
yes,
others.
Warwick Dunn, yeah, he had a great career in Florida State.
Yeah, many others who, they said that he didn't just coach these guys. He kind of like made them be better men because of course a lot of those guys came from single parent households. So. So that so in that sense, he helped them kind of mentored them to who he was as a person, and also to the social aspect of it. I remember I saw a story on Sunday when the news broke that he helped integrate a golf course. He brought in Florida. He brought a black friend to play golf with him, and at the time, that particular course, I'm sure all the courses in Florida were segregated, and he brought that he brought a friend of his who was African American with him to play golf with, and no one said anything about it. Nobody said a word to him about it. And not too long, maybe a week later, they integrated. So that just shows you how much of an impact he has, not just on the football field but also off the field. And just some of the countless stories that was shared. I know I have a friend of mine, who covered college football for years. She shared a great story about faith. He was a man of faith. Coach Bowden was, and also too, you saw what just the great aspect of it. Yes, you said some of the players he coached, some of them ended up being Hall of Famers like Derek Brooks, but some guys didn't. But you know what? A lot of them graduated. A lot of them became really good men. Well educated and end up doing bigger and better things outside of football. So just thoughts and prayers to him, and just lost another great legendary college football coach.
Yeah, and what was Florida State before he got there? Do they have any previous history? I don't think so. Not before he got there.
Not a lot. I mean, it was an all-girls school.
So he put that program on the map.
Yeah, it was. I think to the early, like the late 60s, early 70s, it was an all-girls school. Florida State was. I don't even think that was the original name, but yeah, they really didn't have any history until he got there. So, and seeing some of the rival schools give tribute. Miami gave a nice little tribute.
Yeah, I remember those
Florida.
games back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Those were classics. Florida State couldn't get a kicker to kick it. Yeah, I know. And I think there was 2 or 3 games they lost on the last kick. Those were entertaining. Go look those up on YouTube, folks.
Yeah, and it's just and I think and I don't want to say he ended up laughing about it. He kind of made peace with it. It's just the fates just wasn't in the cards for those teams he coached. But look, he ended up having a great career, and look, 91, and like I said, it's been a tough last few years, losing some great college football, legendary college football coaches, in general. Just want to give our our thoughts and prayers to his wife Ann, and his sons, Terry and Tom. I think Terry is over at Akron now, I believe. He actually left the team to be with his dad, as it was, he was in hospice care, so he was getting closer. He's going passing on. So just, I'm sure over at Florida State they're going to be doing tributes for him all season long. So
yeah.
Just a great, and even though Deion Sanders, wrote a nice little tribute to him. So, just a great guy, and our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family.
Yes, and if there's not a statue out there for him now, there will be one soon, and it should be up there ASAP.
Yes.
Last topic of the show for this episode, Lakina. The Olympics are over and done with in Tokyo, Japan. The USA men's and women's team both brought home the gold as far as basketball is concerned. We'll start off with the men first. They defeated Australia in the semifinal round, and they got their revenge on France this past Friday to bring home the gold medal. The women's basketball team defeated Japan by 15, 90 to 75 to catch up the gold medal for the U.S. women's squad.
We'll start with the men's first. I mean, it should not have been that close. It got a little too close to comfort there late, but look, Kevin Durant, I think kind of like was a one-man wrecking crew for them, if you will. His third gold medal, of course, he actually leads the Olympics, on the men's side in scoring, and deservedly so. And he was a big contributor from start to finish. I mean, I told folks, I told you so not to worry. They were going to find a way to win. They were going to gut it out and grind it out.
You did.
They were going to grind it out, and they did just that. And look, I mean, I don't want to, happy that they won the gold. This is their fifth straight gold for the U.S., but I don't want to go on a whole tangent here because we don't have the time. But I love Coach Pop, but this needs to be one and done for him in the Olympics. You saw how they struggled, trying to play his style of defense. That's why they brought Keldon Johnson on to kind of, because he was one of the few guys that actually can play that, that particular style. Look, you've got guys. Look, Jay Wright's on that staff. Bring him on. Just wipe the slate clean, and who knows what changes Grant Hill's going to make now that he's officially taken over. So, but
you got 3 years for the next Olympics.
Yeah, you only got 3 years, so you better see if you can get, if you get Zion to play, maybe get Trae Young, and he was pretty much
John
begging.
Morant.
Oh, John Morant. Trae Young was practically begging to be on the team. But,
yeah,
but
I'm sure he's gonna get a spot now in 3 years. Hopefully, he doesn't get hurt. But yeah, Trae Young should be on the team if he wants to do it. Like you say, he wanted to do this go around. His name didn't get called, but I'm sure he'll be one of the first things they'll get called.
Yeah, 12. Get like 12 to 20 guys that will actually make the commitment and want to play on the team, with the World Championships, the FIBA World Championships, also to the Olympics. So just you only got 3 years, like I said, till Paris. So so I think there's going to be definitely some changes made, no doubt, for the American men, because it just, look, I know that the world's caught up with us, but there needs to the way this team was constructed, it just wasn't very good.
Yeah, and as I said before, you just took the words right out of my mouth, Lakeena, as far as what the direction of USA basketball is going to be. Hopefully, it'll change. But as far as the players on the court, Kevin Durant was the best player for me. Bam Adebayo really showed out. Shout out to our girl, Alana Takauer of 5 Reasons Sports Network. And Zach LaVine, he really showed out during this tournament. Hopefully he can bring some of that what he learned off the court as well to the Bulls for next season.
Yeah, I know, right? Fingers crossed. Right. Also, JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee, his mom Pam, of course, won a gold medal for the women in '84. So they're the first mother-son team to win gold medals in the Olympics. So shouts out to him. He got his gold medal as well. So not a bad showing. Now, as for the women, I mean, shout out to Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird. Now have five gold medals in their gold medal win against Japan. For men and women, men or women, that's the most gold medals in basketball for both men and women. So give them a shout out there. Didn't have any real problems. I know there was some issues of how the team was selected and such, but they were able to pull it out. They were able to pull it off, though. I wasn't too worried about the women either.
Yeah, also shout out to head coach Dawn Staley. I know she coaches South Carolina, but I remember when she played in '96 in Atlanta. I'm telling my age. But I think she the first female player to win one as a coach and as a player.
One as assistant too, I think a couple of times. Yeah.
That's right. Yep. So congratulations to her as well. I know she doesn't get the prize that she deserves, but congratulations to her as well. I thought of her when they won.
Yeah, I remember she was playing at Virginia. I know I'm showing my age now, but was close to winning a championship a couple of times. Didn't get it. She had actually ended up winning one as a coach, of course, with South Carolina, and she's still doing great things over there. And too, she should be getting her props too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, too, the U.S. The medal count, they won the medal count. 113 medals. 39 gold. Want to give a shout out to the women's indoor volleyball team. The first time they've ever won a gold, which I know it's hard to believe. They've been close a few times, but shout out to them. Also to the team cycling on the women's side, they won for the first time. Also to the 4x4s, the women swept the 4x4 400 relay. Allison Felix is now the most decorated medalist in track, passing Carl Lewis now with her 11th medal. And they had a nice little dream team there with Sydney McLaughlin and Delita Muhammad, also to a thing Mo, like a fearsome force. Whoever thought of those four, putting them together in the relay should get a raise, because that was very well done. Just dominated the 4x4, and also to the men led by Michael Norman and Ryan Benjamin. Finally won a gold for the men in the sprints. They had not won a gold medal before then. So I believe it's their third, and then like 5 of the last 6 they've won on the 4x4 on the men's side. So nice showing for the U.S. in the Olympics.
All right, that puts a chapter in closing a chapter of this episode of Second City Sports. We promise you guys, we love you, we missed you. We had to give you this episode one more time, courtesy of Lakeena. But we are headed to Sports Zone Chicago. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube to watch our live shows. We start this Friday, August 13th at 12 noon Central Standard Time. That's this Friday, August 13th. We're live on YouTube and Facebook at Sports Zone Chicago this Friday at 12 noon. We go from 12 noon to 2 p.m. You can interact with us live.
Yes.
We're going to be doing our shows live now, so you can interact with us. We'll bring you on the best guests, and we're just going to do what we do, have a good time. We'll talk local sports, national sports, and everything else in between. The same stuff you've been listening to on here, we're just going to do it live, and bigger and better things are ahead of us.
Sorry about that darn stuff. But yeah, I mean, look, it's basically the same thing. Look, we're not gonna change much. The only difference is we're gonna be doing it live. We're doing it live, folks. So
yes,
make sure to check
live
us out.
and in living color.
Yes,
no
well, I don't know about. I'll say living color, I guess, but yeah, right. But look, I mean, starting on this Friday, August 13th, make sure to check us out. You can comment too. So look, it's gonna be right there on our Facebook page, also to our Twitter page as well for Sports Zone Chicago. I'm sure we're gonna be doing some crosstalk with Sean and Maya, or Sean or whoever he's guest co-hosting with when Maya isn't there. Yeah. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a whole new chapter for us. Look, we want to thank Kyle Means and the rest of the game for more media, for giving us a platform to do this, which when we couldn't do it in our other platforms. We now have another platform, and now we're getting another platform, a bigger, broader platform. So look, we're still. And you know what? The good news is you can actually hear the audio version of On War Media on on Anchor, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So
so Kyle Means couldn't get rid of us that easily.
no, not at all. So look, you're still gonna hear us too. You're just gonna have to go to Sports Zone Chicago, I should say. The various we'll tweet out the various ways you can listen to it and watch us too. So that way you won't be missing us off.
Yes. On that note, you can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Ooh, I'm all talked out. You follow me at Kitty McGee on the Twitter and at Kitty_McGee on the IG. I'm serious.
Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago, our new home, starting this Friday at noon, from noon to 2 p.m. as we do our live show. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all social media platforms. Just Google Sports Zone Chicago. Make sure you download the app as well. You can find Google Play, Apple, iTunes. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You can catch our live shows there as well. We start this Friday at noon, as we mentioned, from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sports Zone Chicago. You Google that name on YouTube and Facebook. You watch our shows live. You can interact with us, and you will be following Sean and Maya in the morning. So we're on every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Chicago time. Once again, every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Chicago time on Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch our shows live via Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. So we're going to start this Friday, August the 13th. So tell your friends and follow us on social media. So we're going to have some big things in store in the days and weeks ahead. So thank you guys for staying with us throughout this transition over the past year or so. We're going to go back to doing our thing live. We expect you guys to join us over there on Sports Zone Chicago. And for those of you that support all the other shows on Sports Zone Chicago as well, support us. You love us, we love you.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for your support.
Like, follow, and subscribe to the YouTube channel on Sports Zone Chicago. So, and tell your friends too. Dadgummit. Okay.
You got the little honk in you.
Of course. Gotta do it. I gotta do it. You know, for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports Zoom style. And when you see us on Friday live, come in.
Yep. Till Friday. Go Sox. Holla.